final week of 1941, thus concluding a fantastic year for the Soviet Union. All sarcasm aside, in the weather front, the blizzard has gotten progressively worse. It has moved southward finally, reaching Stalina and Rostov, and also pretty much to the base of the Caucasus mountain range. Still, this does not slow down my opponent. He continues to do minor probing attacks east of the city of Veroneza. This does push a hole through my line. Does not move into it. So this seems to be a regular theme as we progress in the last couple weeks. Hopefully that does continue forward. North of this, though, he imitates it. It's a similar style attack. This is directly south of the city of Tambov. And thankfully, it does not appear that he has the ability to take advantage and press these attacks at this point of the war. For if he did, there'd be nothing preventing him from taking the city of Saratov. So before we head down south where the majority of the combat happened this week, or pretty much this month, this is what I'm looking at as we transition into the beginning of my turn. And now moving on to the southern region, where the only thing positive for me on this turn is the arrival of a new front headquarters, this being the Caucasus Front. It will sit side by side with the North Caucasus Front and will greatly help me put everything into a proper hierarchy, which hopefully will allow me to put a better resistance to his attacks. Unfortunately, these attacks happen very quick and swiftly in this area near Krasnodar. He just continues to push my left flank, and my little move to try to flank him on the right, he just moves around. Thankfully, he doesn't really cut anything off in this area, but there are 3 battles that he wins rather easily. Whether or not this move forced him to pull some units from his eastward push, I'm not sure of, just with the lack of recon that I have. All I can say for sure is that as his units moved eastward, they only were able to get to the river line and not cross it at this point in time. What my opponent was able to accomplish happens northward. He proceeds to do a double pincer maneuver, pushing up into the mountain range and then swinging into the gap of my lines. He splits a lot of his divisions up, but what he does accomplish is he isolates a rifle division and then a battalion. And I'm either going to dread this decision as we reach turn 29, or this is going to be a nice slowing down point for him, because this presents a very nice opportunity for me. So as I get into what I actually do on my turn, my decision down here is going to be 50-50 on whether or not this pays off or not, because if I underestimate what he has here, this could backfire badly, but we will get to that. The first order of business on my turn is addressing the turn summary screen once again. So last week I lost X amount of men. It's 48,000 this week. And then I see the on map changes is a negative 100,000. So I did a couple things differently to try to adjust that, and now I'm going into another week where I'm staring at the same 100,000 not arriving on the map, but 140,000 going straight to the theater boxes. So the first area to look at is the reserve box itself, and sorting it by men received, we see a list of about 15, 20 battalions and divisions and whatnot. Obviously, the cavalry corps that I created last week got precedence, so there's 36,000 right there. Switching on over to the northern front, though, here's where I neglected to see that it would also happen here. And this list just continues to go down, even though it drops down to like 30 and whatnot, but all these numbers add up. And this is true for the Eastern Front as well as the Transcaucasus. So this is where all my men are going. And I have to put an end to this, and I can only hope that having this occur for these 2 weeks is not going to come back and really hurt me. But I'm sure it will haunt me as I get into January. But before I get into the actual act of issuing orders to troops, I get a letter on my desk from Stalin. He has decided to remove Malyhin and Popov. This is the man who was in charge of the Leningrad front and responsible for losing the city. He has been shifted south and put in charge of the North Caucasus military district. So this inevitably takes him from what was at one point in time the most important point on the map to now the current most important point on the map. And this creates an issue for me. Not the issue of what to do with like the map and front leaders and all that. It's more of keeping track of things. So there's just so many armies and fronts and whatever, and the value and what's important that I need to figure out how to visually see it. And being a nerd, the only thing I'm good with in this area is Excel. So yes, I color coordinated and set it all up with all their stats and average skill levels so that in the future I can real quickly look at this and then choose how to spend my AP points where it's most needed. With this new level of organization, I would have loved to have spent some of my administrative points on a new leader, specifically for a certain assault front, but I'm shy on depots. So it's rail repair. It's boring, but it is a facet of this game, and it's happening in 2 sectors. So I'm hoping here, east of Veroneza, getting this depot up and running is beneficial and helps these 2 armies specifically gain some strength and better supply. Although his units do look like they're sitting in decent supply, so that was something I'm going to have to mentally keep a note of as I progress forward into January. Setting aside my logistics issues and returning to combat, I have finally kind of filled out the 24th Army. He's a good leader. So he hits the 69th Infantry Division, pushes them back at these light woods. I'm not going to move in. It's too strong infantry of his on either side, so I'm going to sit in level 3 forts. But this is just to keep him true here south of Moscow. The 37th Army is up next, and this begins my main push northwest of Tambov. He strikes at the 137th Infantry Division, forcing them to fall back. Casualties are still low on the German side, but that's okay. I then send the 4th Airborne Corps in. It strikes at the 719th Security Division. He has them set to static, so hopefully that makes retreat and whatever goes on here difficult on him. Then choose to send the 43rd Army in, that we've been relying on a lot lately. It does share with the 6th, so negative 30%, but it does not seem to really hurt too much because he does still fall back here. And then I do follow it up with a further attack on the 86th Infantry Division, where his leader does a very good job of forcing some heavy casualties on me, mostly my tanks, and I guess infantry as well. But he falls back still. So this does put a couple holes in his lines here northwest of Tambov. But before I'm done here in this region, I do need to figure out what this 3-stack unit is. So I am happy I made this move, because discovering these 2 fresh divisions, one of them being an elite paratrooper division, it has proved to me that he actually does have the forces to take Tambov. So with this information that I did not get from any reconnaissance airplane, I am now convinced that I have to continue these attacks pushing southward to relieve any of the pressure that possibly might be heading towards Tambov. Dropping down to the south though, I was going to originally show this with actual movement of game footage, but I figured it'd be a lot better for me to just do it with my overview system. So not to get too complicated, but the first movement that was important was me taking my 2 isolated units and then moving them northeast and due east. This is a manner to try to get them away, but also discover he has another mechanized unit further isolating them. This I'm honestly okay with. So after redoing every one of these units, putting them into the Crimean front, giving them proper structure, I move all my new infantry divisions, albeit they are weak, but so are his, westward. And as they move west, I maneuver them in and around his units, and I do end up isolating 2 of his mechanized. Now, the one I don't have much view on. The other one, though, only seems to have a strength of 1. This, though, is not all I'm doing. So my original plan was to take Rostov, but with his new movements, what I have decided to do is to shed the 57th Army away from that objective southward to flank him completely. Now, when this army arrives next week, it will have the strongest units on my side in this region. And this is what things will look like when he begins his turn. Now, I'm not 100% sure how he's going to handle this. It's not like these units are strong. But the units coming down from the 57th do have one little trick in their sleeve. And for those with a keen eye, they will see it. But it's a little bit of RNG that I haven't gotten before. So, for the first time, we have a Rifle Guards unit.